Insider threat risk exists because trusted access can be used in harmful ways, intentionally or unintentionally, and that risk is inseparable from how organizations operate. Every environment relies on people who must access systems, data, and processes to do their jobs, which means trust is a prerequisite for productivity. The challenge is that trust does not eliminate risk, and in some cases it amplifies impact when misused.
Insider threat management is therefore not about suspicion as a default, and it is about designing controls that assume mistakes, pressure, and misuse can occur.
When handled correctly, insider risk is reduced through structure and visibility rather than through fear or overreach. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to the CISS books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Insiders include employees, contractors, vendors, and privileged administrators, all of whom may have legitimate access paths that external attackers must work much harder to obtain. Employees often have deep knowledge of business processes and data value, while contractors may have focused access to specific systems during critical projects. Vendors can hold persistent connections or administrative rights that bypass normal controls, especially in managed service relationships. Privileged administrators represent a unique category because their access spans multiple systems and security boundaries. Effective insider threat programs treat all of these roles consistently, based on access and exposure rather than employment status alone. Motivations behind insider risk vary widely, which is why simplistic models fail to capture real behavior. Financial gain is an obvious driver, especially where valuable data or fraud opportunities exist. Coercion can occur when individuals are pressured by external actors through threats or leverage unrelated to work. Grievance may arise from perceived unfair treatment, career setbacks, or interpersonal conflict, leading to retaliatory actions. Accidental misuse is also significant because well-meaning individuals can cause harm through misunderstanding, haste, or poor judgment. Understanding these motivations helps shape controls that reduce opportunity and impact without relying on predicting intent. Access level and system knowledge often make insider activity more damaging than external attacks, even when technical skill is lower. An insider may already know where sensitive data resides, which systems are critical, and which controls are monitored closely. This knowledge reduces the need for reconnaissance and allows harmful actions to blend into normal activity more easily. High privilege can also bypass layers of defense that would stop an outsider early. As a result, insider threat mitigation focuses heavily on limiting blast radius and increasing accountability, rather than assuming prevention alone is sufficient. Indicators of insider risk often appear as deviations from expected behavior rather than as clearly malicious acts. Unusual access times, especially outside normal work patterns, can signal misuse or credential compromise. Large data transfers, especially to unusual destinations or through unconventional channels, deserve scrutiny. Privilege changes that are not aligned with role changes or approved requests can indicate preparation for misuse. None of these indicators prove malicious intent on their own, which is why context and correlation matter. Effective programs treat indicators as prompts for review rather than as automatic accusations. Data loss controls play a central role because many insider incidents involve inappropriate access, movement, or disclosure of information. Monitoring data flows helps detect unusual transfers or aggregation of sensitive content. Classification provides the context needed to distinguish low-risk data handling from high-impact exposure. Restricting sharing channels reduces the number of paths data can take, making misuse easier to detect and harder to hide. These controls focus on protecting information regardless of who is handling it, which aligns security with business responsibility rather than personal suspicion. Least privilege is one of the most effective insider threat mitigations because it limits reach by ensuring access is granted only to what is necessary. When individuals have only the permissions they need, opportunities for misuse shrink naturally. Least privilege also reduces accidental damage because fewer systems and datasets are exposed to error. Implementing least privilege requires ongoing review because access tends to accumulate over time as roles change. When enforced consistently, it turns insider risk from an open-ended problem into a bounded one. Separation of duties further reduces insider risk by ensuring that no single person controls all steps of a sensitive workflow. This principle applies to financial transactions, system administration, data access, and security operations alike. By requiring multiple roles to complete critical actions, separation introduces natural checks that discourage misuse and expose errors early. It also protects individuals by reducing pressure and temptation associated with unchecked authority. Separation of duties is most effective when designed into processes rather than retrofitted after incidents occur. Behavioral analytics adds depth by correlating activity patterns with what is normal for a given role, team, or function. Instead of relying solely on static rules, behavioral approaches look for changes in how individuals interact with systems over time. This might include shifts in data access patterns, tool usage, or working hours that differ from established baselines. Behavioral analytics is powerful because it adapts to context, but it must be tuned carefully to avoid false positives. When used responsibly, it supports early detection without labeling normal variation as threat. Coordination with human resources and legal teams is essential because insider threat handling crosses technical, organizational, and legal boundaries. Human resources provides insight into role changes, disciplinary actions, and offboarding processes that affect access and risk. Legal teams help define investigation boundaries, evidence handling requirements, and appropriate responses that respect rights and obligations. This coordination ensures that technical findings are interpreted within proper context and that actions taken are consistent and defensible. Without alignment, insider investigations can either stall or overreach, both of which increase risk. Logging and retention provide the traceability needed to understand insider activity accurately over time. Detailed logs of access, changes, and data transfers allow investigators to reconstruct actions and distinguish misuse from legitimate work. Retention periods must be long enough to support delayed discovery because insider issues may surface weeks or months after activity begins. Logging also supports deterrence because awareness that actions are recorded reduces the likelihood of misuse. When logging is comprehensive and protected, it becomes a foundation for accountability rather than a reactive tool. Offboarding controls are a critical moment for insider risk because access changes rapidly, while emotions and incentives may be unstable. Prompt removal of logical access, recovery of devices, and revocation of credentials reduce the window of opportunity for misuse. Offboarding should be coordinated across systems so no residual access remains through forgotten accounts or integrations. Timing matters because delays can undermine otherwise strong controls. A disciplined offboarding process treats departure as a security event as well as an administrative one. Awareness programs reinforce acceptable use expectations and encourage reporting of suspicious behavior without creating a culture of fear. Clear communication about responsibilities, boundaries, and consequences helps individuals understand what is expected of them. Awareness also empowers employees to report concerns early, which can prevent escalation of both accidental and intentional issues. Effective programs emphasize shared responsibility for protecting the organization rather than framing insider risk as a hunt for bad actors. When awareness is consistent and respectful, it supports prevention through culture rather than enforcement alone. Insider threat identification and mitigation work best when access limits, monitoring, and process discipline are blended into normal operations. Least privilege and separation of duties reduce opportunity, while data loss controls and behavioral analytics increase visibility. Logging, retention, and coordinated investigation provide accountability without overreach. Offboarding and awareness address risk at key lifecycle moments where exposure can spike. When these elements work together, insider risk becomes manageable and proportionate rather than overwhelming, allowing organizations to protect themselves without undermining trust. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.